Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I'm here today with another game for you guys, and the topic of today's video is actually a world championship game between Wilhelm Steinitz and Mikhail Chigorin from 1892. And actually, as of course I mentioned, Wilhelm Steinitz was world champion at that time, and Mikhail Chigorin was playing for the world championship, and Wilhelm Steinitz was defending his world championship here. So Wilhelm Steinitz actually first became the world champion in 1886, and then actually he went on to defend his world championship in 89, 90, and then 92. So this game is actually from 92 against Mikhail Chigorin, and so let's see how the game proceeds. So we actually Wilhelm Steinitz in this position in this game is actually with the white pieces, and Mikhail Chigorin is facing him with the black pieces. So Wilhelm Steinitz opens with e4, as most of the players at that time used to play 1e4. That was the most popular move. And we have e5 from Chigorin. Normal looking move, a world championship match. What could go wrong? So we have knight to f3 and knight to f6. Most of the games used to proceed in this way. And now Wilhelm Steinitz proceeds with the move of bishop to b5, the beginning of the Ruy Lopez. Now Ruy Lopez has a very rich history as an opening dating back to even 1500s, when this opening was first time played by a priest called Ruy Lopez, and Mikhail Chigorin in this position plays the move of knight to f6. Now this move knight to f6 is the beginning of the Berlin defense, which is in today's date known as one of the most solid openings for black. But at that time, this move knight to f6 was not that much popular, and more popular moves in this position after bishop to b5 were actually move like a6. But Chigorin plays in this position the move knight to f6. This is Berlin defense, as I already told you guys, and this was actually made popularized by a world champion, another world champion, that is Vladimir Kramnik. He had played this opening against Garry Kasparov in the year 2000 in his world championship match, and Kasparov was not able to get any advantage with the white pieces. So this is like known as the Berlin Wall that Vladimir Kramnik employed in 2000. So Mikhail Chigorin was basically quite a few years ahead of his time with this move of knight to f6, beginning of the Berlin defense. And we have d3 from Wilhelm Steinitz. He is now protecting this pawn that was attacked, and also Mikhail Chigorin goes for d6. Now in modern days, the more popular move is this bishop to c5, but there is not much problem with the move d6 as well. Now we have c3 from Steinitz. Clearly you can see that the idea is to break in the center with a move like d4. So we have g6 from Mikhail Chigorin, making way for his bishop to put on g7 and then castle. So we have knight to d2 from Steinitz. The idea is to get his knight to the f1 square, and then maybe the knight can either go to e3 or g3. So Mikhail Chigorin goes with the move bishop to g7, and we have the move knight to f1 from Wilhelm Steinitz, as I told you guys. We have castles, and now bishop retreats to the a4 square, because now the idea is that to get the bishop on c2, where it will have this diagonal after a move like, let's say, d4. So now Mikhail Chigorin actually decides to go back with his knight, but actually what could have been better is maybe d5, and you directly confront white in the center for wasting time with moves like this. But instead Mikhail Chigorin decides to go back with his knight to the d7 square. His idea was to play a move like knight to either c5, or also to maybe break in the center with a move like f5, which could be very good for him. So after Mikhail Chigorin's move knight to e7, we have knight to e3 from Wilhelm Steinitz, and Mikhail Chigorin plays this move of knight to c5. Bishop decides to retreat here because it was attacked, and now we have this move knight to e6, as I had predicted that the knight wanted to go back to the e6 square, because now you can see that it's looking at this f4 square, which is very nice for the knight. So we have this move now h4, and actually Wilhelm Steinitz has commented about his move h4. He said that usually it's not a good idea to play this move h4, because you can see that you are not playing around the center, but you are moving your flank pawn. But in this position, Wilhelm Steinitz says that this move h4 is completely valid, because you can see that the black has made this V sort of a structure, a sort of home structure for itself. You can see that This is kind of a house here, and you can see that this g6 pawn is kind of a hook that can be attacked with a move like h5. You can see. So that's why this move h4 is very good, because you can attack this hook, and you should always keep in mind that whenever black or your opponent takes this sort of structure, fianchetto structure, you can always attack it with your flank pawn, because this g6 pawn will act as a hook for you, and white will have to either take, or let's say if he does not take, then you can take back and get an open file for yourself. So that was the idea with the move h4, and we have this move of knight to e7 now from Chigorin. Clearly the idea is that you know the theory that if your opponent attacks you on the flank, that is from the side, you should always attack in the center. Remember that if your opponent is pushing his pawns in the side of the board, then you should attack him from the center. So that is basically the idea of the move knight to e7. Now Mikhail Chigorin wants to break in with this move of d5. So after Chigorin moves his knight, Wilhelm Steinitz absolutely does not care, and he plays this move of h5, now signaling Chigorin to either take and allow his rook to infiltrate, or Steinitz will take himself and create open file for him. So as predicted, Chigorin goes in with the move d5, and we have now h takes g6 from Wilhelm Steinitz. Now in this position, Mikhail Chigorin actually plays this move of f takes g6, but what could have been better in this position is actually maybe to take with the h pawn. Yeah, you are allowing this rook to get an open file, but you can see that this bishop is actually currently doing a very good job of defense, and also you have these knights which could get to the very good squares. But instead Mikhail Chigorin plays this move of f takes g6. Now the problem with this move is that you can already see that these squares, light squares around the king, become very weak and are now accessible to this bishop, as you will see in the game, because now we have takes from Steinitz. Mikhail Chigorin takes here, we have knight takes, and after queen takes, Wilhelm Steinitz plays this nice move of bishop to b3. Now as I told you guys, you can already see that how this bishop is very beautifully aligned with the queen, this knight, and this king, and is sort of not allowing black to have very good play. So after bishop to e3, b3, queen decides to move away from that, and you can see that this knight is now pinned to that king. So we have queen to e2, now clearly putting pressure on this pawn, and Mikhail Chigorin plays this move of bishop to d7. Now he is ignoring the attack, because let's say if you decide to take here, then I can take this pawn and the pawns are still equal. So Wilhelm Steinitz of course does not take that pawn, and he instead gets his last piece into the attack so that he can castle long and have an attack against this king. So king moves to the side of this diagonal. Now this knight is no longer pinned, and we have castles from Steinitz. Now you can already see that there is opposite side castling, and we will have a very nice attack. So Mikhail Chigorin gets his rook to aligning with this queen, where in future if let's say if you break in with this and if this knight moves, then white could have some problems. But queen just now retreats the f1 square. But in this position, what a normal looking move could have been like queen to d2 with probably later with the idea of maybe exchanging here, or even getting your bishop to maybe, let's say, a square like g5, which could be useful. And actually engine prefers this move of queen to d2 with these ideas. But Wilhelm Steinitz actually in this position plays this move of queen to f1. And now engine sort of does not like it, because the engine says that black can now just play this move h5, and now like white does not, engine argues that white does not have an attack because you don't have a move like g4, because that just hangs your knight. So that is not possible. That's why engine plays this move h5. But seriously, no player in the world is capable of playing a move like h5, because that is just so counterintuitive. You are weakening your king. Already the king has no shelter, and you are pushing pawns in front of your king. That's not how humans play chess. Only engines can play chess in that. And also the defense of the players at that time was not very great. So instead Mikhail Chigorin goes ahead with this move of a5. Now you can see that Mikhail Chigorin himself is a very vivid attacker himself, because he now with this move of a5 is sort of threatening this move a4 and wants to create attack of his own against this king, because that was the tendency of most of the players at that time. They were not very good at defense but rather used to rely on their attack. So we have this move actually from d4 from Wilhelm Steinitz, and now actually you can see the full potential of this move of queen to f1 that you will get to see in a couple of moves. At this point, with this move of queen to f1, Steinitz has this is a very normal looking calm move, but Steinitz has had actually a very dangerous idea in his mind, and Mikhail Chigorin actually falls for that with the move a5, and now we have d4 from Wilhelm Steinitz, wherein of course now you have to take, otherwise this fork is coming. So Chigorin takes here, and after knight takes, now you can already see that you can't take back with the knight, because that just leads to mate after rook takes, and you can see that there is no square for you to go here because this bishop is blocking, so you have to take here. And after this check, we can already see that this king has no square. So let's say if you decide to block here, I can just give you a check, and if you block again here, then I just take, and this king does not have this square because of this bishop. So taking with the knight is not possible. So in this position, Chigorin decides to take with the bishop. And now normal people would just take with the bishop, then this knight takes and would have equal position. But Steinitz actually finds this brilliant move of rook takes on d4. Now yes, of course knight can take back here, but that just leads to a very brutal attack against your king. But apart from that, you don't have anything else, because you can already see that this king is weak. My bishop, if it gets on this diagonal, it would be very deadly for you. So there is nothing actually for you to play in this position. You can try for a bit with this move of queen to d7, but after a move like bishop to d5, already the position is falling apart for black. After a move like, let's say if your queen moves, then a move like rook to h4, and already this king, you can see, is very shaky. So Mikhail Chigorin actually in this position decides that he will let Steinitz have his glory in this position, and he will let Steinitz have a beautiful finish, and he actually decides to take in this position. And you can now see that how weak this king is, and Steinitz in this position finds this spectacular move of rook takes on h7. So there is no other way for you to other than to take. So Chigorin takes here, and we again have this queen to h1 check from Chigorin, and you can already see that this king had sort of only this square, so it goes there. And now you can also give this check here, or you can give this check, which actually Chigorin gave in that game. And after king goes here, now you can give this queen to h4 check, and now you can already see that this king again has only one square, so it goes there. And actually after queen decides to take on d4, Chigorin actually decided to resign, because in another move he is getting mated anyway. So that was a quick and short game from World Championship game from the 1982, where Steinitz after Mikhail Chigorin played this very super solid move of knight to f6 of the Berlin defense, but later on Steinitz was able to create a brilliant attack on the king side thanks to his move h4 and h5, and also Mikhail Chigorin was a bit naive with his lack of understanding that this attack is actually very potent, and this bishop at the end proved to be most valuable piece for Wilhelm Steinitz, because it controlled that g8 square. And at the end, after this move queen to f1, Mikhail Chigorin actually failed to understand that now white is actually threatening to sack on h7 square, and he has to actually play that move of h5, but nobody can find h5. He went ahead with his own attack that actually failed after d4, and after takes, like we all know this beautiful finish at the end that Steinitz managed to pull off and deliver mate against Chigorin. So that was a very nice game that I wanted to show you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed this very quick and nice game. So I will see you in the next episode, next game. Until then, bye bye.